We are beautifully melanated.
Welcome to the Beautifully Melanated Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Sarah.
I'm Karen.
And I'm Kay. And today we are going to talk about money. What's our relationship with money? Is it a friend? Is it a foe? We're going to talk about our attitudes to money, our relationship with money, and we'd love to hear from you at the end of the podcast. So, Sarah, I'm going to start with you. Could you tell us a little bit about your relationship with money?
Right, thanks, Kay. Yeah, of course. My relationship with money is, I feel, quite interesting for me anyway. I've come from someone that really has an issue with money right up to now, where I feel I've got quite a positive relationship with money. So I was not born into money. I was born to a very young mum, teenage mum, and I was adopted, like I mentioned in the last episode. So my birth family didn't have much money, and in fact, my birth mother was really struggling up in Chapeltown in Leeds. And I was then adopted by, I think I've said before, by two middle-class white people, couple, my parents, and they had money. And I lived a kind of very comfortable life in Hampshire, and that's where I grew up. But my dad was a businessman, my mum was a teacher, and I would get money for what I needed. So I wasn't the spoiled child as such, but anything I kind of needed money for, I would get. And then when I got older, I say when I moved to London when I was 18 and stuff, I had to negotiate rents, etc., as you do, bills, utilities, all that kind of stuff. So my mum and dad would give me money for like the first month's rent on a flat, for instance, or say my bills, etc., while I got myself set up. And then I find I might have a situation where, I don't know, for argument's sake, my car breaks down, or a situation where I need a new washing machine. So I would try and kind of work out how I would have the money for this. I often didn't have the money. So then my dad would say, okay, let me just give you the money for that. So to begin with, I was like, oh, thank God. He would always kind of help me when it came to stuff like that. As I said, I wasn't spoiled, but stuff I could probably think of about how to get the money. And it sounds dodgy, but you know what I mean? There was ways I could have thought around how to actually save for something. Or maybe he could have said to me, okay, Sarah, maybe I don't know, £20 a month aside from your salary. So if your washing machine does break down again, then you've got a little buffer. But he never did that. He just said, there's the money. So as I got older, and I started to do kind of work around the way I feel about money, I realised that him and my mum giving me that money created a money block for me, because I never felt worthy of my own money because they'd always given me the money. So that was always their money. I never really saw myself with my own money. So I'd always kind of make enough to be okay, but I'd never really make enough to kind of ever save. I'd never really make enough to kind of, I don't know, feel like I don't know, could look towards a future with savings or anything. And often I'd have that money, but I'd just spend the money I had. And I realised I was doing this because I've been obviously brought up in a place where I've just given the money, and I didn't have any ownership over my money. That's what it was. I had no ownership over my own money. And the older I got, the more stressed out this made me, to the point where I just felt helpless around money. It's only now, really, aged 40, that I have a full understanding of my money blocks. And I've done a lot of work around money and my views on it, and the best way for me to excel my finances. So, yeah, my relationship with money, it's been interesting. It's been difficult for me at times. I've struggled at times, but now I've kind of come into a place where I feel that I understand money now, and I understand my money blocks. Therefore, I now know how to make more money. So yeah, that's my experience of money. Karen, coming on to yourself.
Well, I try not to take money too seriously. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. So I have been in positions where I've been quite comfortable and I can pay things on time and I can do pay for extracurricular activities for my children, for example. I can go on holidays. I can buy nice things for myself. And sometimes I have been in positions where that wasn't the case. There have been times in my past where I have struggled. But I have, on occasion, stopped all my direct debits. Just stopped them.
Karen, what do you mean you stopped your direct debit?
There was a period of time when my husband lost his job and it was a really difficult time. And I just said to everybody, stop. Because I don't want to get to a point where I'm so stressed and so overwhelmed about money and bills that it impacts on my mental well-being. It is not worth it. So there was a time, and I'm not ashamed to say this, there was a time when I said to everyone, just hold on there a minute. Just hold on there a minute. I stopped everything and I wrote to creditors and said, look, this is the situation. My husband has lost his job. I am on a, whatever income, and this is what I've got. And you'll be surprised, actually, because I think creditors can be quite accommodating. But I think it's about having communication. So when I see people getting into huge debts and they're so stressed and the letters are coming through the door and they're panicking because another, letters hit that mat, it can cause people so much stress. I've heard of people, losing their lives to it, right? Because it is so overwhelming. And it can feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders. I don't believe it's right to get into that state. I think that people go through things. It's life, right? And there are times when it's much more difficult than others. I'll be the first to admit that. And I just think to myself, it's just money. You can wait. All right? So you can. My children have to get fed. No, seriously. I just prioritize. I say, right, my kids have to eat, right? I've got to get to work. This needs to happen. We need to be warm. I'm not about to turn my heating off. So, it is what it is. And I think for me, that has been so important and so empowering to know that actually you can write to people and say, I'm going through a difficult time. And I think people don't allow themselves to be able to do that. What can you do? If you've got, think about the pandemic and how many people have lost employment, people have lost businesses. I've heard of people losing so much. Like I say, it has been, it's hit their mental well-being hard. I just think it's just money, right? I'm not saying it isn't important. Of course, I believe that we need to pay our bills. Of course, we need money to live. All those things, absolutely. But I never, ever want to lose sight of the fact that it is a bill.
Right.
That's what it is. It's just a bill, right? No one died. And for me, that's really, really important. I don't want to become stressed about those things. Like I say, it is important to, pay what you owe that's why, for me, education has been my way of sort of being able to demand a better salary, for example, which is why I do really advocate education for my children. I say to my eldest, she's at university, and I say to her, I need you to be self-sufficient. I certainly don't have a bank. There's no bank of mum here. So I need you to be self-sufficient and to be able to hold you. Like your parents, Sarah, I would always help my children. I always want to be in a position where I can help. So if Jada was struggling or anything like that, I'd like to be able to help my children. Of course I would. But I would like her to be, like I say, self-sufficient so she can help herself. My mum would give me anything. My mum would literally chop her arm off if I needed it. No question, right? She'd just say, right, from the shoulder, from the elbow, what do you need? She's that kind of mum, absolutely. And there have been times where, she has really helped me. I think my mum's helped me so much, I couldn't really repay her, to be fair. But how I look at it is that now that she's older and I'm in a position where I can do more for her, there is nothing too great for my mother. I'd give her anything. So that's the relationship we have. I think it is important to be independent. Absolutely. But I think that's what parents are for. I think they're there to be your safety net if you need it. I don't
sound like my dad now, Karen.
Pardon?
You sound like my dad now.
Yeah.
Well, perhaps we share the same view. I do believe that. But like I say, it doesn't mean that I don't expect my children to be independent. I'm not saying that they can rely on me, but I'm saying in times of need, that is what I'm there for. That's what I believe. And then I say to them, when you are making your fortune, I'd like to travel by first class or by business at least. And they
Absolutely.
say,
So, Karen, I'm slightly different to you. In fact, not slightly. I'm very different to you in that I have lost sleep over bills, and I have made myself physically ill with the lack of sleep and worrying about paying bills. It causes me a lot of stress when there isn't enough and I have to juggle. It drives me insane. And I've had to do it. Particularly back in 2008, when my life changed in so many ways and I became single whilst I was retraining. So I hadn't had a fixed steady income. And yeah, for a while I did have to write to the bills people and say, you'll get it. Not sure when, but you'll get it. But that made me so stressed. It's not like I did that and then went to bed and slept okay. I didn't. It caused me so much stress. I cannot tell you. My relationship with money is complicated. It's almost like that lover that you can't let go of, but it's a complicated relationship. And I know for a fact where it comes from. So bear with me because I'm going to sound like I'm bashing the church again, but I'm not. Bear with me. I was born and raised in the church. That's all I knew. And what I learned about money from the church was scriptures like it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich person to enter heaven. It was don't store up treasures on earth, store up your treasures in heaven, where your heart is, there your treasure is. So money as a concept was quite abstract, except when you had to pay your tithes and offerings, suddenly it becomes a real concrete thing. But the church didn't give me any education on investing and savings or financial planning. It was just God will provide. And I hate that phrase so much. I cannot tell you how much I hate that phrase, because as a child, I internalized that as I didn't have to do the planning financially. I didn't have to do the budgeting. I didn't have to do the future thinking because God will provide. And it's as if by magic. Bearing in mind, I'm hearing this as a child. And I took that into adulthood, feeling quite frightened that if I earned money and I had money, then I'm going to hell. The love of money is the root of all evil. We might have all heard that. So I was always torn between, I want to live a comfortable life, but I also want to go to heaven. And if it means that I have to live in poverty and make it to heaven, then I will. And that's quite wrong and ridiculous. But that was my thinking, I would say, up until my mid-30s, which is quite a long time, to not save and not plan because Jesus is coming soon. I didn't even think I'd finish high school because Jesus is coming soon. And then I hit my middle 30s and I'm like, oh my God, I have nothing. I did not, for myself as a woman, as Sarah was saying, I didn't really sit with my own money and tell it where to go and plan for it. When I got divorced, it really hit me how little financial literacy I had, because now I'm on my own and there's no joint income and it's all on me. Very, very stressful. So I would love to know, ladies, what is your balance now? I am nearly 50. Sarah said she's 40. What is your balance now with money? Would you still not pay the bills, sleep well? I still get sleepless nights, I have to be honest. I will still lose sleep over money?
I would just like to answer that, please, Kate, because, like I say, it is important that you live within your means, right? So
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting that people live beyond their means and are frivolous with money. That's not what I'm suggesting. I believe that, like I say, you live within your means, you cut your cloth to fit, whatever the saying is. But having said that, there may be times where you fall on hard times, right? And things are very difficult. And I think we have to give ourselves permission that is the case. Then you think, okay, let me think of a way forward. What I wouldn't advocate is for you to do nothing. Just not pay them and say nothing. That's crazy.
Right. Yeah, that is
I'm not
crazy.
suggesting that. What I'm saying is that you can say, this has happened to me. I'm a single parent. My husband lost his job. I was laid off, whatever it is. But I think it's okay to do that. And once you've done that and there is dialogue, you'll find that creditors are quite accommodating. Well, it was in my experience, I have to say.
And mine.
The other thing I have to say is that because I am a single parent now, and I work in Kent, my earning potential is much more limited than, for example, if I worked in London. I could do exactly the same job in London and be paid double.
Yeah.
But I am mindful, I have a child at home. She's still in school. And I want to be present. I want to be there. I want to be, I want to be at home. I want to be able to cook dinners. When she comes home, I'm here. That's really important to me. So I've had to make decisions. I've had to, choose priorities, really. And so for me, perhaps earning what I earn means that, I'm comfortable enough. But am I earning as great as I could be? No, but she won't be this age forever. So I think we're just trying to take a really practical approach. That's what I hope to do.
Okay.
I don't know how successful.
Karen, you mentioned about not being frivolous, but I like frivolity. I don't just want to hand to mouth one paycheck away from homelessness, and it almost feels dark, like there's no joy in life. Sarah, I want to ask you, was there ever a time when you were frivolous with money?
There wasn't really. I've actually been quite good with money. I've been quite good with money. I hate debt. I have a credit card, but I wouldn't spend more than £1,000 on it. Even that would kill me. I like to be in control of my money. So where I'm not anti credit card. The thought of having thousands and thousands on my credit card, thousands and thousands, would make me have a mental health issue. I know I'd have a huge anxiety overload, and it will be close to all I could think about. I've not grown up with that. I've not grown up with people in huge debt, so I don't want to have it. Apart from my mortgage, that's the most debt I have. Ladies, we have a guest in our waiting room. I'm going to let the lady in, Jackie Stewart, and then Kay, if you can introduce her, that'd be fantastic.
I'd be happy to. I'm honoured to introduce the listeners to a phenomenal woman, Jackie Stewart, founder and director at Financial Training and Consultancy Limited, and she's a dear friend of mine as well. Jackie is the expert. We thought with this important conversation about money, we should bring an expert in to give us some insight and some ideas and maybe help shift a mindset or two about money. So welcome, Jackie. I'd love you to introduce yourself to the listeners and tell us a little bit about yourself and your company.
Hi, Karen. Hi, ladies.
Hi, Jackie.
My name is Jackie Stewart. I'm the director of my company, Financial Training. I am a qualified accountant. I spent many years working in the city as an accountant. And then when I had my last child, who's now he's 14 now, gosh, I decided to do a teaching qualification. And when I was doing my teacher training, I was working at a school where kids who had been excluded from mainstream education were put. And I absolutely loved working with them. My God, this is what I really want to do. So I decided to put my two passions together, which is all things finance and teaching, and to start my own business called Financial Training, and hence financial training, because it was initially geared at youth and helping them to revisit how they look at finances and to find it fun. So my main thing is working with small businesses as an accountant to make sure that they put all their finances in place correctly and legally. But I also do work on personal financial management as well, because I'm a believer that our community needs to manage their finances better. So as a community, we can stop depending on help from the government, but build our own. So that's my whole ethos.
Jackie, it's lovely to have you on. We all have some questions for you.
Okay.
I'm going to go first. And with a confession, Jackie is my accountant and she does keep me on the straight and narrow. And there are times that I've said to her, look, I want to spend money. I want to be frivolous. And she's like, this is what you need to do in order to do that. And Jackie, I don't know if you remember years ago, you recommended this book to me.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Overcoming under earning.
Yeah.
That's a great book. I've got that upstairs.
Have you, sir?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I have written all over this book, and it changed my whole attitude and mindset towards money.
Me
but there
too.
is still a little fear there, still maybe a little, can I earn this much in me, Jackie? So I'm going to hold my question and let Sarah and Karen ask you their questions first.
No problem. Go ahead.
Jackie, hiya. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. My question, I'm going to pick your brains really was about your view on mindset to making more money, to accumulating more wealth. I'm a big fan of the law of attraction, and I found with myself, if I write down the amount of, say, money I'd like to make in a month re client work, aside from my day job, say, for instance, I want to have, say, 6 client sessions in a month, I would write down how much money I would need to make. And I tend to find when I write it down and focus on it, I will make that money to the letter. I've also found if I write down how much money I want to make on, a Post-it note or something, and then put it on my whiteboard, I will somehow accumulate that amount of money in a month. It's weird, but it seems to work every time. And I think I kind of think it won't work, and it always does, because I think at the last minute, I'll sell something on Facebook Marketplace to make the exact amount of money that I was going to make. So I wondered what your views were on that kind of thinking, and your views on the mindset of, making more money and accumulating more wealth.
Okay, so that's a loaded question, but definitely. Let me answer that. First of all, in terms of the law of attraction, what you're speaking about there, that hasn't really necessarily worked for me. Now, it may be because I'm not strong enough to attract it, and maybe because I'm more practical, right? Okay. But what I do believe is when you get the basics right and you lay the correct foundation, so in terms of knowing your numbers, because you're saying you write it down and do that, I think that in itself is an attraction. So I think when you get things aligned up right, what I don't necessarily think works is if we just wish it. No,
not wish it. I mean, with action. Right. When it comes to law of attraction, you've also got to take inspired action.
Right. And that's what you've done. So that I do definitely believe. I do think that when you align things up and you do what you need to do, it's like when you hear of people who say they want to earn 6 figures, right? But they don't look after, they can't even manage the 2 or 3 figures that they're earning. I mean, come on. Yeah, so that's kind of like me. So yes, I think when you line things up and you do what you're supposed to do, then it definitely, you are going to attract that. In terms of earning lots of wealth, I say it depends on your motive. I mean, you're still the same person that you are. So if you're a greedy person, by having more money, you'll still be greedy, right? If you're somebody who likes to give a lot to people, by having more money, you're still going to give to people. I think we need to accumulate wealth in order to help ourselves. I could go really deep into this, but I don't know how long I've got, so I won't go too far with it. But I do believe we're almost playing catch up. My community, so my heritage is Caribbean. And I say we're playing catch up because my mother, my father, they came over here, they're Windrush generation, had nothing, blah, 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 and had to start from scratch. And so what we haven't done well is generational wealth, building generational wealth and passing it on. A lot of people in my community and my type of age. But I think we're getting better at it. And I think we can only really see real change happen when we generate it ourselves and use it for good.
Actually,
does that answer your question? Sorry.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, okay. Jackie, that's brilliant. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry. Thank you. I need to spoke over Sarah there. Sorry. I just want to echo that point. And that is exactly what I was going to bring next.
Okay.
I was going to pick your brains, but you've already explained this. How you feel about generational wealth and how you feel about sort of our children inheriting, therefore not starting on the back foot. And you explain that beautifully. That's exactly my position. I was in a position where I could acquire a second property because my idea was to hold it for my children. I never forget, I went to drama school some years ago, and there was a girl who was able to live in an apartment in Ladbroke Grove, I think it was, really sought after part of London. And she had no rent to pay because it was her parents' apartment.
Right.
So when everybody was struggling, like finding accommodation, it was so expensive, she had a place in London. I thought, I am going to do that for my kids. That was
absolutely.
Yeah. And I said, if my daughter wanted to live in London, whether she did or she didn't, the point is she'd have somewhere to stay. And it would be paid for, or might have a small mortgage. But I thought, how incredible would it be if my children started one or two steps on that ladder?
That's my whole thing. Yeah, I'm so big on that. And you don't even have to start with the property. I mean, most people don't have a basic life insurance. That is generational wealth, right?
Absolutely.
Something as simple as life insurance. So, when we pass on, for example, they will have a sum of money that they can use for whatever, right? And a lot of people don't even have that. And that's what, £8 a month, if that? I mean, depending on how old you are and when you start, but £10 a month.
That's a good point.
So this is my whole don't get me started, but this whole generational wealth thing is so important, and it's easier than we think as well, right? And for me, it's just so much stress-free knowing that my two sons will be sorted. They're fine. I'm worth more to them dead than I am alive, right?
I think I might be as well.
Me, right? And they're going to get rid of me.
Karen, was that your question answered?
Absolutely. I hear you 100%, and I totally agree with that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, Jackie, I might have a two-parter for you, but I just wanted to say, in terms of generational wealth, I have ensured that I have 3 life insurance policies.
Wow.
I have 2 here and I have 1 in Jamaica. And the 1 in Jamaica is the one that's going to bring my body home and bury me there, because my children know I must not lay here when I'm dead.
Okay,
they know this.
Right.
So
I am not it out.
Oh yeah. My funeral will be paid for. I will not leave them any stress when I've died. And I hope to leave them a little something to get them on the property ladder.
Yeah.
And so that's my contribution. But my question is this. Talk to me a little bit about wealth retention, because I have earned over the years some pretty good money. And there were times when I earned the minimum wage or I was on income support at one point. But I find myself in a cycle. And I'll make the money, but then I'm not retaining the money. Can you say something about wealth retention and maybe what needs to shift in my mindset?
Well, that's it. It's your mindset, right? And it's not just your mindset, but it's being around the right people as well. I found the biggest shift that's happened for me is within the last 2 years. So I've invested in me in terms of making sure I'm in the room with the right people.
Right.
So I'm probably the poorest in the room, for want of a better word, right? But just there's a system to this thing, right? So it's obviously, the basics is you have to earn more than you're spending. I mean, that's the basics, right? But it's what a lot of people don't actually do and don't keep an eye on. And that's, for me, I'm all about budget. I talk about budgeting all the time and have a written one, not in your head. And you've got to keep those numbers working so that you're getting more in than you're spending. And then what are you doing with the bits that you have in? Are you investing them, for example? And, sorry, I didn't get the lady's name before. She spoke about property. That's one of the best ways to retain. Karen. That's one of the best ways to retain wealth, right, is having property. Because we know the cycle, it always is going to go up every 10 years, 7 to 10 years, whatever they say now. It's always going to, the capital's going to grow on it. So it's about that. But it is the mindset. I think if you're a spender and you don't deal with why you're spending, then you're going to keep spending. So something has to change there. And we know, I mean, I'm probably talking to you guys know more than anything because of your profession, but we know how long it takes to change a habit, right? The average it takes to change a habit, but how much do we actually focus on that and really work on it like we do if we go into the gym, for example? I go to the gym 4-5 times a week. How much time do you spend looking at your money? Exactly.
I check my account every day. Does that work?
You check it every day, but what are you doing with the check? You can check it every day to make sure you can pay your bills and all the rest of it. And then so then it's that scarcity mindset thing as well. There's another book I can't remember.
I agree. Yeah, there's a scarcity mindset. Like, it keeps you in the loop.
There's a book that speaks
lack,
about that,
doesn't it?
Right. So you're always coming from a place of lack. You're not coming from a place. There's more than enough. There's a wealth. There's abundance around us, and also how your definition of wealth as well, which is different for some people. Some people think wealth is just about being rich. For me, wealth is more about my network and the resources I have access to. I may not have a penny in my bank, right? But if I knew that I had to move out of my home today, I can at least straight away think of 20 probably people whose homes I could go to. For me, that's wealth.
Fair enough. And mine is one of them.
Right, there you go. Karen, let me in. I need to stay here for a night, right? And I can think of people that I could do that with. To me, that's wealth as well.
I'm digesting
something to think about. So when you're saying retaining wealth,
yes,
think outside of the box.
Right.
It's not always the physical monetary money that we used to trade, right? That's what we used to trade. It's just a resource for trading. It's more than that for me.
Fair enough.
I hope that answers your question.
It did.
Okay. I like what you said, Jackie, about the people in the room, because I found now I've kind of elevated, I'd say, my professional circle of women. And they're all very successful women that I surround myself with. And they have very healthy relationships with money.
Yes.
I found that's elevated my own relationship with money.
Me too.
And it's really good. And it was something I didn't really think about before. I say in my, late 20s, early 30s, I wasn't really fussed about that. But now the only people I want around me are people that are healthy in mind and good with money in the future. So, interesting.
Yeah. So despite my mistakes with money, and Sarah, you and I did a constellation workshop maybe 2 years ago.
We did. I love that.
I loved it.
We should do it again.
For the listeners, it's where you look at your family, your generational patterns and trends, and even words people say, and what's been passed down to us. And I did one on money, and oh my God! So the pattern is, particularly for the men in my family, they make a lot of money, and they lose a lot of money. That's what my question was about, because I can see I'm repeating that pattern. And I listen to my daughter, who's 18, talk about, multiple streams of income. I can't, she goes, I've got to be rich. I like a certain lifestyle. So she's writing a book, she's writing a play, she's working on her music. She's just thinking.
Yeah, love it.
I never ever thought of multiple streams of income, Sarah, until Jackie and I really talked about money. But that's something for us to consider, isn't it, in terms of wealth building as well?
Absolutely, because if you've got one stream of income, I mean, COVID was the big one for most people, right? If that one stream of income's gone, you've got nothing else to fall back on, right?
Yeah,
definitely.
And also depending on where you're investing, I mean, the markets go up and down all the time. So you want to be spreading, wherever you're putting your wealth, wherever you're investing and all the rest of it. So definitely for me, I mean, I've got one business, but that one business brings me lots of different streams of income depending on what I'm doing. So that's a form of having that as well. Property, I invest in property. That's another stream of income. So it's. I think some people, and again, it's that whole mindset thing. Some people think it's hard to attain that but it's actually easier than we actually think. But again, going back to what you said, it's being around the right people, because then that's when you realise, oh my gosh, is that it? Kind of thing.
It's 100%. Like, I can't imagine now not having my private practice and my full-time job, and now I'm looking to start doing some courses as well to do with therapy. So it's kind of, I don't know if I could go back to just one stream of income.
Exactly. So. Scary thought, right?
Yeah.
When we were doing it, it was fine.
It was fine.
It was fine. Yeah, but we weren't getting anywhere. Absolutely.
No. I was just thinking about like what Sarah said, and you were saying earlier that it can be to do with services, offering services. That sounds really dodgy.
Hey, it's the oldest profession in the world.
That wasn't the service I was thinking or referring to. But like Sarah said, to do a counselling online. I do tutoring. I tutor young people. GCSE subjects, things like that. And it can even be, you could be trading services. So I might tutor someone's child in English, and they might be proficient in maths, and they might give my daughter lessons in maths.
Trading, exactly.
Yeah. Those things are really,
That's how it was in the beginning, right? Before there was physical printed money, that's how it was, right? You trade your services, absolutely.
And the other thing, I just wanted to recap on what Karen said, because you said something earlier, sorry, Kay, when you talked about the church and their position with money. And I think, again, I wonder if that's also open to interpretation, because I've been to churches quite recently. One I'm thinking of in particular is a huge church in Kent, and they talk a lot about generating wealth. It's really important. They can even quote scriptures from the Bible that says, you need to have wealth in order to help your brother, in order to...
Absolutely.
Scriptures, but So
I promise you, that's not how the church I grew up in interpreted it.
It
was poverty porn. It was poverty porn. The more poor you are, the more holy you are.
Yeah. But again, that's what I'm saying. I think it is interpretation, because that, like I say, this particular church were the opposite. And I thought, my goodness, should they be advocating, encouraging this kind of wealth?
Where was it? Stagnation?
No, and I've been full circle. So I grew up in a similar church, Karen, where being poor was like being humble, just be content. That's the word I was looking for. It's about being content, right? But what you have to remember, it's funny, I had a conversation with somebody else from a different cultural background than myself, with the church that I go to, and they were coming from a different standpoint. They were more kind of, because there is that stigma, right, with having a lot of money means that you're greedy or whatever. The love of money, that's it. The love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, right? The love of money. Okay, but then if you're thinking money is a tool, and if I'm using that tool to help my brother and sister, my children, my whoever, creating generational wealth, how can that be for evil? Because I can't actually make any changes if I don't have money, right? Let's be honest. If I want to feed the poor, I can't be poor, right?
There's a word.
And you're finding a lot of people are changing it, but I find, depending on where you're from, like I said, for me, it's a big thing, because in my opinion, we're playing catch up. Not everybody, I'm generalizing here, but if you think of slavery, when my grandparents or great grandparents, when slavery ended, they didn't have anything. They had to start from scratch. My grandmother used to go down into the town to sell, but she would be there from Thursday till Saturday with no bed to sleep on, but she would be there selling, right? So it's not that far from me. So looking just at my own ancestry, because I've done a lot of work around that, we're just trying to catch up. When my mum came to this country, they did what probably a lot of the Windrush generation did. They all shared houses until one could afford to buy their own and move out. They all did that. So it's not like they had built any generational wealth, okay? Yeah. So I think we're playing catch up. But I think where the church is concerned, depending on the church you go to, my church teaches good stewardship. We should be good stewards with our money. They run... I'm a coach for the CAP Money Scheme, Christians Against Poverty. So they run a lot of budgeting courses for free, and I think they're amazing. But yeah, I don't go to the type of church that doesn't. Yeah.
I had to use CAP services back in 2008, 2009, and they were amazing. Cannot sing their praises enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Sarah, how are we doing for time? Sorry, Karen. Just needed to check how we are doing for time.
Yeah, we're okay for time. We're okay for time so far. We've got a little bit more time left, about 5 minutes.
All right, go on, Karen.
I was just going to say about schools as well, that my eldest was saying, we didn't learn anything about money management or mortgages or those sorts of things at school. I think they have she had a lesson called Excel or something, where they sort of touch on money management ever so slightly, but there's not a big push on it. And I do wonder why school don't make that a priority. I think it's really important. It's really been left to me. So my eldest is pretty good with money. She does like shopping, but that's another topic. But she has made a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Those sorts of things. So I'm quite pleased with the way that she's able to sort of, budget and manage herself while she's at uni. But I do think schools could do a lot more. And I wonder if, I don't know, what is the agenda? Why don't they do that?
And there was a law that passed, I want to say about 4 or 5 years ago, to say that they were going to bring it into, what's that lesson?
PSHE.
That's the one, PSHE, that they were going to bring it into there. But I haven't actually seen anyone talking about it myself. I'm wondering if it's in certain schools and not all schools. I don't know. That's definitely something that should be taught. And even me, I used to teach at a community centre, and I teach IT and level 2. So I did a lot of Excel as part of Microsoft IT teaching. And I would always base it around money management. One thing I'd always teach is do your budget. So that I'd use Excel to teach that. And I still do. I do that all the time. So yeah, I don't know why it's not in the schools, but we have to do it, don't we? So we just have to make sure that we do it. Like you, my son, I taught, he was using Excel. They do learn to use Excel in school. And he set up his budget as soon as he got his first part-time job. He's now, 10 years later, and he still uses that budget. He still does his budget. So because if you start them young, it becomes a habit, right? A good habit.
Yes.
So they just do it automatically. So yeah, he does it all the time.
Wonderful.
So I'm an advocate for getting them to do it young.
So Jackie, one of the reasons why I was so excited that you came on our podcast today is because I know you run courses that will teach people how to look after their money. Could you plug your courses? Tell the listeners how they can find your services so we can all build generational wealth and retain it.
Yeah, sure. I've got, so it's a membership, which is I'm now going to bring it out as a course as well. I'll explain why in a moment. And it's called 7 Steps of Wealth, 7 Steps to Wealth. And it basically takes you through 7 steps. And it's literally, you've caught me offline. Let me try and remember. Budgeting, financial planning, investing. It's, what's it called? I can't remember what the subject's called, but it's about doing your will, basically, planning for your afterlife. And another one is business, so building wealth using businesses. So that's multiple streams of income. And then the final one is community. And I put the community one in there because that's all that I'm really all about, community, and that's giving back. So when you learn something, you teach somebody else. Not just that, let's use our different expertise within our community to help build it, right?
Right.
So I've been running it as a membership, so it's an annual membership, but I'm now changing it to a course. So I'm going to be running an 8-week, doing it over 8 weeks, but also a course that people can just do on their own. Because when it comes to money, it's really funny for some people, and some people don't want to be as open about it. So I'm giving people the opportunity to just do the course on demand in their own time. Or if you want to actually implement and get things done, if you want an active working group, then they can do the 8-week course. And that's probably going to come out in April, I think, the 8-week course. So to get hold of me, the best way to get hold of me, probably on social media, I'm my most active on Instagram. And my handle is at financial13. So that's financial with a U. Email, is j.stewart. No, it's not. It's J Stewart, no dot. jstewart@financialtraining.com. That's probably the 2 easiest ways to get hold of me.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Any final word, ladies?
Just thank you. Thank you, Jackie. Yeah.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, lovely to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jax.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
So there we have it. We are about to build generational wealth in our good age. It's been a pleasure, ladies. Thank you for this really, really interesting topic. To the listeners, I hope you enjoyed. It's a little bit longer than usual, right, Sarah?
Yeah, a little bit longer than usual, but I think it's a really interesting topic. And I think what I love about this podcast is we can really cover things, as long as they need to be covered for. And I think it was a really full conversation. So yes, it was a little bit longer than normal, but I think it was worth it. Definitely.
I agree. Well, that's it for this week. Take care, guys. See you next week. Send us your comments, your questions, your money stories. We would love to hear them to Beautifully Melanated Podcast at gmail.com.
All right, guys. Take care. Bye.
We are beautifully